this on.
Well, good morning, and good morning to those who are joining us remotely. It's really nice to see you all here this morning. What do I got? So Marcy went to visit a Unitarian Universalist fellowship, and the service was very nice. And then afterwards, she was invited downstairs for coffee hour. And she went, and people were, having their coffee and saying hello. And then somebody called out 13, and everybody laughed. And somebody else called out 26, and everybody laughed. And she said to the person next to her, she said, what's with the numbers? Is this some kind of UU thing? The person said, well, we've all been coming here a while, and we've all heard each other's jokes before. And so we decided to just give each joke a number. And now when somebody tells the number, we remember the joke and we laugh at it. She said, oh, that's a really nice tradition. Can I try one? The person said, yeah, of course. And Marcy said, 11. Silence. She said, what, is 11 not funny? The person said, oh, no, 11 is funny. You just didn't tell it very well. Welcome to this place which we make holy by our presence. These doors are open to all. We welcome diverse ideas of the source of life, diverse needs, diverse abilities. Bring your brokenness and bring your power. Bring your vulnerabilities and strengths, anxieties, fears, loves, hopes, for here you need not hide nor pretend, nor be anything other than who you are and who you are called to be. In this place, the ordinary is sanctified, the human is celebrated, and compassion is strength. Welcome to this place. Together, we make it a holy place. Please join me for the words of the chalice lighting, which are printed inside of your leaflet. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. Now, please stand if you are able and join us for hymn 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. 550 in the hymnal. 550. I now realize when I lit the chalice, I was also supposed to light the candles, which are symbolic of having more fire in the room. I don't really know. This we know, the earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. This we know, all things are connected, like the blood which unites one family. All things are connected. Whatever befalls the earth, falls the sons and daughters of the earth. We did not weave the web of life. We are merely a strand in it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. Today we do our water ceremony, which I would like to begin with a poem by Langston Hughes. I've known rivers. I've known rivers ancient as the world and older than the flow of human blood in human veins. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. I bathed in the Euphrates when dawns were young. I built my hut near the Congo and it lulled me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and it raised the pyramids above it. I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abraham Lincoln went down to New Orleans, and I've seen its muddy bosom turn all golden in the sunset. I've known rivers, ancient and dusky rivers. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. I was reading recently a reminder that water is always moving. It's always on the move. There's the old expression that you can never step into the same river twice. It is always moving. One of the ways that water moves is through us. Each of us now is carrying water, different water from the water we carried last week, different from the water we'll carry next week. In a way, water is moving through us. We have a collection of water here that has been since 1996. Members of this congregation have been adding a little bit of water, maybe water that is from some particular special place, or maybe we pour in some water from the pitcher while we kind of ritually invoke some special place, by which I mean, if you forgot to bring water, you can still say the name of a special water supply and add some. So I invite each of you to think about some special place, some special water source. And then you are welcome to come in. If you've brought water, you're welcome to pour some in. If you have not, you're welcome to name some special water source and add some to our reservoir here. This water comes from my bathroom. I just poured it at home this morning. But This summer, I got to take the kids to Allegheny State Park. It's one of my favorite places. And they have just wonderful little creeks that run alongside the different campgrounds. And so I would like to pour this in as a symbol of the water in an Allegheny State Park creek. Those of us who'd like to name a water supply and add some water, please come up.
I don't have my microphone, and in the world of Zoom, I don't exist. This is genuine and authentic rainwater collected from our place near Ellicott Creek. So much more pure than Ellicott Creek water. So.
So I feel really embarrassed because it was my idea to continue this when Paul said we weren't doing it. And I left my water in the car. So that's symbolic of the water that came out of my rain gauge. It wasn't very much.
Peter will talk for me, but this water that I am representing here, he didn't even know me then. This is the water, or this is symbolic of some water from the swimming pool in which I learned to swim. And that, before I fell, became a very important part of my life. And swimming has always been important to me. And I really cherish that, the memories of learning how to swim and of swimming. Thank you. This water is symbolic of a wonderful visit that I had from a great friend from Maine. We walked along the gorge, and it's a fantastic walk. If you haven't done that, please do for yourself.
Our favorite water is Ellicott Creek. We live right behind it, and we have views out of our north windows and our west or our east windows. And every day it's different. Every time of the day it's different. We have different animals, and it's just been a joy to us.
So I left my water on the bathroom sink upstairs. And I'm not going to run back up to get it. This morning when I was checking Facebook, my very first boyfriend ever when I was 12 years old had posted up a picture of Brideville Falls, which is in Kagawong, Ontario on Manitoulin Island. And when I was a kid, my brother-in-law, who had a big sheep farm, and he had a great big tractor, and he would take the tube out and fix it up with something on the bottom so that we didn't drag our feet. We'd start off at just below the falls, and then we'd end up out in Lake Huron. So in honor of those wonderful children's memories,
I'm just going to share with you a little experience with water that I had, and Betsy indirectly, when she was in the midst of her hospital recuperation. My son and I had been there for, I think, probably 8 or 10 days at that point.
and we're really getting stretched out thin as a wire or something or other. And so one night when we finished at the hospital, instead of just going back and dropping dead in the hotel room, we decided to go out and explore what we'd heard about that day from somebody, and I can't recall who, that in Rochester, there are 3 falls like the Niagara Falls. It comes in 3 sections. Well, they're both pretty, all 3 of them are pretty spectacular. They're not well known. And they're obviously not as big as Niagara Falls because it goes down in 3 sections instead of 1, but they're several miles apart too. And so we went and explored them and found them, and it was bitter cold like it was all the time we were there, but we looked at them anyway and had it was a great refreshment for us. And that's what I'm remembering, is to have gotten away from the hospital and everything else for just a few hours. But we went and explored and found those 3 waterfalls in Rochester. So I'm going to symbolically salute them.
I didn't bring any water because we really didn't go anywhere this summer. And I'm like, we really didn't do anything. And then I remembered we went to the exciting place of Wheatfield and we got married. So this represent Wheatfield.
I'm going to pour in one more bit for the rest of us. And now, Peter, would you please lead us in honoring the joys and sorrows?
You've all heard me announce the process that we often go through or normally go through to start the joys and sorrows, taking a pause. But I think all I really need to do is say number 43 or something like that, and you'll know exactly what we're doing. If there's anybody that doesn't know what number 43 is, it's the fact that we will take a moment of silence to contemplate and meditate. And if you dare to pray, that's okay, I guess, as long as nobody else knows about it. So we will silently do whatever you wish to do for a few moments and then share any personal joys or sorrows that somebody might have. So in the tradition of number 45, if someone has decided there's something you'd like to, a personal joy or sorrow that you'd like to share with us, you may do so now, and you can take a candle if you choose and light it. Place it in the baptismal font.
This is kind of a joyous sorrow, largely due to the fact of my memory. And when I seen Marie come in, then I was reminded at some point in the summer, she brought some books for the little library downstairs. And she said, Patty, you might want to take a look at the Julian Lennon book. So I thought, oh, wonderful. And I brought it upstairs and I started to read. And as usual, I was distracted. And you know, I cannot find where I put that book. It's somewhere lurking around this church. And someday I will finish reading it.
And Patty, we all hope that you put a good bookmarker in it.
I wanted to mention my stepson Caillou. He just turned 17 in August, and his mother passed away September 1st. She was in an accident. She lives in Topeka. He's okay, but they're going to have a memorial service in October just to keep him in your thoughts.
So today is my niece's birthday, and she will never have quite such a joyous birthday because it is 9/11, and it reminds her every year what happened on that date. I also have a joy. I don't know how many of you. Ega.
I have two. So I have two joys. My first joy is just that Marie is here, and I hardly ever see her. And I'm so pleased you're here because you just add a little spark to this place. My second joy is also a public service announcement. Bill and I got shots on Friday for the new COVID variants. The Shingrix and the Moderna are both available. Pardon me? What did, I said Shingrix. I got Shingrix in my brain. Pfizer and Moderna are both available. So check it out and get yourself a new vaccine. At the senior center. So check it out. In fact, the senior center in Amherst is going to have it on the 21st again. And if you want information, I can probably get it for you.
I would supplement that on the recent ones, and I'm not sure whether this is true at Rite Aids, at least you could just show up there and without an appointment get the shot, but call first if you've got a long ways to go. Any other joys or sorrows?
Actually, it's I thought maybe there might be some people that follow what goes on in the UK. And just a quick reminder that Queen Elizabeth passed several days ago. I think it was on the 8th.
If there are no others, let's proceed to the offertory collection. Whereas Patty plays the, oops, I got them mixed up again, didn't I? She's going to play the offertory and we're going to take up the collection.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow and the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life, the ship of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Well, I just flew in from Albuquerque. And boy, are my arms tired from dragging my children and their bags through 4 airports. What's the opposite of vacation? Vacation with children. Because you're traveling, you've got to be the pack horse, the butler, the chauffeur, the maid, the tour guide, sometimes the fantasy tour guide. Since sometimes you got to make something up to stop them from singing, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" You point at some crag in the distance. You say, "Look, that rock formation over there, I think it was the background of a scene from Young Guns 2. You become the museum guard for an Airbnb. You've got to be the prison warden in the airport, which is impossible because an airport is the exact perfect opposite of a jail. It's just zillions of people passing through zillions of doors. And there's this delicate balance between, on the one hand, hissing at your kid to be considerate and quiet on the plane, and on the other hand, trying not to look like an abusive, hissy parent. And William, my 5-year-old, he's got to touch everything. Every fixture in the bathroom, every armrest on the plane, every menu in every restaurant. You turn around and he's like chewing on a backpack strap that you've dragged all over creation. And you say, "Dude, if you get sick and throw up on the plane, they're going to kick us out. They'll have to open a window for the smell, and then the whole thing will just depressurize." We went there to visit my mother. She comes to visit a couple of times a year. And when my mom comes to visit the day before she flies back to Albuquerque, she'll stop by with a bag and she'll say, like, here's a half a package of crackers. And here's an open bottle of wine with one glass left in it, etc. And I think, thanks, but we've got crackers here. And you're a refugee. As a child, you filled a backpack and escaped the Soviet invasion of Hungary, leaving everything behind. How are you now getting so sentimental about a package with 2 cookies left in it? You're holding it like it's the last known photograph of your uncle who got abducted into the gulag. This half a pack of crackers, is this my inheritance? Now I understand. Because when you're traveling, half a package of crackers can be the difference. It can stave off a nervous breakdown. When you know it might be an hour before you can get food, just knowing it's there, like we have enough calories in the car to shut the kids up long enough so we can leave the tourist plaza and find a greasy spoon on the highway, save $5 a plate, which, you know, with 6 people eating, plus credit card interest, it kind of adds up to tuition money. But you need those crackers to get the kids quiet long enough. And that bottle of wine you bought, which you've been rationing to yourself as rewards for getting through each day, and you save that last bit for in case you go insane at the last minute. So by the time you're packing for the airport, each one of these things has become a kind of magical talisman, a life raft in the storm. And then you can't pack it, so you hand it off. You say, here, Mom, here are the scraps. Here's a half roll of paper towels that saved us from having to pay the car rental people $100 because of a spill. And she looks at it and she says, yes, we have paper towels here. It's like that interesting rock you find when you're stuck in a tourist trap with the kids and you don't want to blow your money on souvenirs, so you make a really big show out. Oh, look at this. Everybody come around. Look at this interesting rock. Wow, it's got crystals in it. Oh boy. You pick it up like it's the Holy Grail, and suddenly all of the kids are fighting and clawing and shouting, he got a long turn with the rock. It's my turn. Back off. You're blocking the sun with your big head shadow. So you kill 5 minutes and you save $50 on souvenirs. But then you get home and nobody cares about the rock. They're back to fighting over the tablet, the Nintendo, whatever. Hey, I've got an idea. While he takes his turn with the game, why don't you spend 15 minutes looking at that cool rock we found in New Mexico? Dad, nobody cares about the rock. You put it somewhere as a little reminder of that time you staved off a whole tsunami of kid tantrums, whatever. But 3 months later, you find it. You say, what is this rock doing in the living room? Did one of the kids bring it inside? They'll end up throwing it through a window. So you just toss it out into the driveway. And who knows, maybe then some New Mexico tourist in Buffalo is dragging their kids down the sidewalk. Oh my goodness, look at this. What an amazing rock. And they bring it home. It eventually ends up in their driveway where it came from. We don't necessarily consider Western New York to be an exotic location. We lived here. We live here. Once you've kicked the gray salted ice off the wheel well of your car, the honeymoon is over. We are married to this place. We've lived with its seasonal depression, greeted its cranky mornings. We've heard all of its old stories. It is unmysterious. But every time I go away for a few days and then return, I'm reminded of how singularly lovely this place can be. How dynamic and how comfortable. I know where everything is, and I know how everything works. It's like that couple in the Pina Colada song. Do we know the Pina Colada song? Where, like, They got bored of their old routines, but then realized what they really needed was to rediscover each other. The song is called Escape, but really it's about a homecoming. By the way, I once saw an interview with Rupert Holmes, the guy who did the Pina Colada song. And in the middle of the interview, he stopped and he stared desperately at the camera and said, "People, please, if you see me in a bar, don't walk up and hand me a pina colada. Ask me what I would like." It turns out maybe at some point in 1979, a pina colada seemed like a nice fantasy, but now he's stuck with it and wishes he could escape from it. I wonder if the sound of a blender sends him ducking under a table. Anyway, where were we? Homecoming. Homecoming is a recent development in human history. Our whole concept of home is just a few thousand years old. For hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of years, humanity was a migratory species. Small tribes of people foraging in a spot till it was picked pretty clean, then moving a couple miles to the next spot. Of course, this was easier before they had giant personal libraries and record collections and furniture, plus houses to keep all of that stuff dry. Before high-rises and banks, cathedrals and casinos, folks were mobile. And they could easily migrate northward in summer and south in winter like birds. These days, you got to have a lot in the bank to be free as a bird. Only folks who wisely stored up their treasure can afford to migrate with the season. We call them snowbirds. A few thousand years ago, with the rise of full-time farming, we start to see the first homesteads. Parcels of land kind of belonged to people, but really people belonged to the land. Medieval European serfs didn't get to take vacations, except for the occasional pilgrimage to the Vatican, or if a crusade was declared. And you went there on foot, and it took years. The first crusade invited farmers from all over Europe on a massive tourist trek to paradise, paradise being the Pope's promise of instant admission to heaven if one died on the crusade. Needless to say, for many, it was a one-way trip. But for those who made it home from crusading, the drudgery of European feudalism must have taken on a whole new layer of enchantment. A medieval pilgrimage to the Vatican was a bit like a modern amusement park in that you could return with some magical memories and 7 years of crushing debt. The differences were that the economic burden was somewhat offset by atoning for sins, looking forward to a discount on one's purgatory stay. Also, instead of rides, you had to stand in line all day to kiss a skull that may have been Saint Peter, or may have been anybody. And Peter was a very common name. But after a full day of standing in line, you did get to kiss a skull. There's an old joke about the priest on a pilgrimage to the Vatican. On the road, he passed a woman weeping in the fields, asked why, and she responded, "Because my husband and I want a child, but alas, we are barren." He said, "I'll light a candle for you." Years later, he saw her again weeping. "What's wrong? Did you not have a baby?" She said, "We've had triplets every spring for the last 5 years. Now I'm stuck alone caring for 15 children. He said, "I'm sorry. Did your husband pass away?" She said, "No, he's on a pilgrimage to the Vatican to blow out your stupid candle." In medieval times, all of the land belonged to kings, and farmers belonged to the land. If you asked someone what home was, they'd probably say the little village where they were sharecropping themselves to death, as their parents and grandparents had done before them. Ancestral bones were their roots in the land. And since serfdom didn't come with dental insurance, most died of a toothache at 27, just as their children were becoming mopey teenagers. For centuries, most folks never traveled more than 2 miles and got buried just a stone's throw from the spot where they had been born. Our idea of owning a home doesn't really start until modernity. The sudden so-called discovery of the Americas had a lot to do with it. Europeans could go straight from debtor's prison to having your own little plot of land on the American frontier. Early America needed pioneers to build log cabins on Native American lands, face the brunt of tribal rage, and eventually populate and pollute an area enough that the natives didn't feel at home there anymore. Then there was a brief blip of what's sometimes called the American dream, where factory workers and teachers could afford to buy houses and take summer vacations to national landmark tourist traps. It's a dream in that it seems eternal, but now we know that it must have been just a bizarre fad, a trend that lasted a generation or two. Vine Deloria, a descendant of migratory Native Americans, looked at the American middle class in the late 1970s and saw wandering, foraging nomads. He wrote, "Today the land is dotted with towns, cities, suburbs, and the like. Yet very few of these political subdivisions are in fact communities. They are rather transitory locations for the temporary existence of wage earners. People come and go as the economics of the situation demand." I can kind of relate to this, having now lived in 15 towns in 7 states. 7 of those locations are in New York, my favorite state, where I was born and where I hope to spend the rest of my days. In the state of New York, I've lived in a cattle town, a small city, a couple of crumbling ghettos, and even the Big Apple itself. We'd left Manhattan for North Carolina because of employment and economics, but then we moved to Buffalo by choice. We decided we wanted to be here, and then we worked out the employment and the economics afterward. People are always really surprised when I tell them that. I say, yes, no, we came here by choice. Arriving 7 years ago, even though I'd barely seen the city before, it still felt like coming home. Now I reside in a house where I've lived longer than I've lived anywhere else in my life. Last month, we left that comfortable house, took the kids to New Mexico, dragged them through the desert in summer heat, and then got home and realized we really should have gone there in winter. Live and learn. But getting back reminded us how exciting Western New York is. This, I thought, would be a perfect place to take a vacation. And that's great, because after all that travel, I need a vacation. The life of a Unitarian circuit preacher is a bit nomadic, but having visited this fellowship for years has taught me some important things about belonging somewhere. I don't believe in the place where someone belongs, but I do believe that we seek belonging. How do we know when we found belonging? Obviously, one meaning of belonging is just to be long. When you've been there a while, you start to become part of someone's mental image of the place. You belong there when your attendance isn't news, but your absence is noticed. I think that's something we find here. We belong when we are known. Yes, sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. This could be the Unitarian motto, but not just as an acquaintance. We belong in a place where everybody's known us when we've had a bad day and when we've had a bad year. But that doesn't change their sense of who we really are. We belong when the community can see past through the dark clouds that hover around us sometimes, the fog of depression, the storm clouds of frustration. When people can see through that and know us for our essential being. Belonging means that we can't be replaced. Members of a community may fade away or disappear. New members join, the fellowship lives on, but we're not interchangeable parts. We each have a special place in the dynamic, an essential role that grows with us that only we can fill. We're gathered here today not because of an alarm clock or a church bell, not just because of routine. We are called here by a sense of belonging. I belong here, and you belong here, and we belong here. Thank you. Please stand if you are able for hymn 131.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard nights. If you cannot sing like the angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Well, I am excited to announce that at 12:30 today, we'll continue with our adult education series. Today, we'll be looking at some of the prehistory of North America. So I think we'll learn some really interesting things about that. Do we have any other announcements this morning? If you have found strength and comfort here, share some comfort. Remember that you are blessed. You are blessed. From the words of the chalice, signature printed inside of it.
All day I faced the barren waste without the taste of water, cool water. Oh, Dan, sorry I turned too quick. Oh, Dan and our throats burnt dry and souls that cry for water. Cool, clear water. Keep a moving, Dan, don't you listen to him, Dan. He's the devil, not a man. He spreads the burning sand with water. Dan, can you see that big green tree where the water's running free and it's waiting for you and me? Cool, clear water. That was one of, yeah, her dad loved this song.